What's up, friends, family, loved ones that we've lost? Welcome to RTP After Dark. It's getting romantic. I even got the mood lighting on tonight. Even a little lightning bolt there in the corner. How about that lightning bolt, folks? It's great to be here. Look, here's what happened. If you, I'll let the Discord know actually real quick. We'll see how tonight goes. Whoopsies. I don't even have a plan for tonight. Not even a plan for tonight. We'll see what happens. As of right now, I plan to talk to Jake about a few things, and plan to talk to you about a few things. But we're getting real romantic tonight. Real romantic. If you guys could help me out, I'm not normally live at night. If you hit that like button when you come in, that'd be great. Does Trump even have more lawyers to flip on him? He's running out. He's absolutely running out. Let's go, Danielle Marie. That's right. We are after dark. It is spicy. It is lovely. I'm old as shit, man. This is a little late for me. Let me see how it goes. There we go. It did come through. Haven't even smoked yet. Hey, everybody. RTP After Dark. That's right. It is after dark. I'm going to finish this conversation here with, this is Whisper, but Whisper can't get his act together, and he can't stop getting banned, and so he's got to use my account because I'm generous.
Whatever.
So say goodbye to this account. I'm going to be back down to 2 accounts here shortly. But
it's just how beautiful I look. You know, that's really what it is. I've got some fans. Oh wow, you went the other way.
That's right.
Just making me.
That's right, my friend. Look at you.
Professor Whisper here.
Whisper After Dark. We're getting a up. Well, I can't say that. I was gonna say. I don't think you're allowed to say that. You know what I was gonna say. Let me actually fix this so it's the different lay. I don't ever. Oh, I gotta click my box. That's the key. You gotta click your box there.
You gotta click your own box.
And then we're gonna go this way over here. Come on. Says it can't be changed. Oh, I can't change it while I'm in the small box. Shit. I don't even know how to do this. How do I get myself back in the big one?
I thought you could just do duels.
That's what I was trying to do. There we go. All right. Now I'm going to try and duel it. This is so bad, dude. We couldn't make YouTube work tonight. And now here we are.
I really don't know what happened to YouTube because it's the same stuff that we finally had fixed last time. I think it's because I don't have a second monitor set up. I think that's the only reason.
Yeah, it's got to be your fault.
It's definitely my fault. It's 100% my fault.
All right. Let me see if I can get it right this time.
But you're the TikTok pro, not me.
Boom. Check that out. Boom. Everything is fine. All right, dude. I don't know how tonight's going to go, but what I wanted to get from you was just an update on things as you see it in the Middle East. Or not the Middle I guess is that Middle East? Gaza, Palestine. Does that still count as Middle East? It's like
still Middle East.
It's like on the left side if you're looking at a map of the Middle East.
So I mean, the update as far as what you were talking about before, which was the comparison between Ukraine and Israel. I don't really see how we make the comparison there. I don't understand how we make the comparison there. It's not as if it's not like Russia going annexing as many as Croatia or other places. It's not as if they were going up to invade and doing that whole thing, and then Ukraine's sitting there going, "Shit, we need help," and then we just help them. It wasn't like we were helping them for years and years and years and years before. I mean that could be like the only comparison, I guess, is that we have sent aid to Ukraine before, but the Israel situation is very different.
Oh, never mind.
That is not me.
Do you hear that?
Music. I do. I heard that music. Was there something going on with you?
There's somebody blasting Christmas music or some sort of music just outside my door. I don't know what they're doing.
Anyway, what I'm getting to is in the Middle East when we look at Israel, we've created that war essentially. Just by backing up Ukraine doesn't mean we started that war. Just by being in NATO, that's kind of our job. We have obligations to do so. We have things that we want to help. If Ukraine falls, then there's instantly we have to send a lot of aid to other countries. just because Russia is moving out. It changes things. It changes things dramatically. And so there's a reason that we're in Ukraine. Totally makes sense.
Did you?
The reason that we're in the Middle East
go ahead.
Still has yet to be something that's been really, really dutifully explained to me.
No oil.
In any way.
No oil. Did you not know?
Not
it
even
was
oil.
It's probably oil.
Not even oil. Not even oil. Like it's not even actually oil. It's just I believe it's strictly warmongering, it's so desperately bad. But anyway, update on.
Let me ask you some questions. Actually, I wanted your. Yeah. I'm gonna change directions. You've seen the same videos probably that I've seen. I don't know if you saw Good Trouble's live tonight. Actually, yeah, there you go. Good Trouble was talking about this earlier tonight. He had put out a video that essentially just like, I didn't see even the whole video. I think essentially it just like condemned Hamas. And you have a bunch of people coming out like justifying what Hamas is doing. As somebody, you've studied this forever. Where are you at on like what do you think about
Hamas? I haven't seen
what do you think about sharing a space with maybe other lefties who are saying like that's like Hamas represents Palestine, Hamas might be justified in this?
No, they're a terrorist organization that thrives on civilian deaths, and they're very selfish. I mean, their leadership can't even stay in the war zone. They're fighting a war from throne rooms in another country. So no,
where are they getting it wrong? Why are all these lefties getting it so wrong? And
why are lefties why are they getting it wrong?
Why are they so wrong on Hamas?
Because they don't understand what Hamas is. Hamas has exploited the Palestinian people, has exploited the Arab people. It's just like ISIS or Al Qaeda. They're an exploitation, and they're an extremist group, a very, very extreme extremist group, basing it upon faith in the Quran and denying the Torah and basically saying that they're hell bent on eradication just as much as Israel is hell bent on eradication at this point. No, what the fuck are like any lefty that's saying that just has no fucking clue what Hamas is and doesn't understand the tragedy that Hamas has brought to the Palestinian people. There's also this notion that there is no Palestinian people. That's also something that I've seen come up a few times. It's not actually a Palestinian people. They're Arabs. They're Muslims. They're Islamic. That's what they are. They're not Palestine isn't a people. And for 30 centuries, we've had this going on. If Palestine is not a people at this point, what the fuck are they? I mean, that's like saying that Texans aren't Texans because they're in the United States. They're just all Americans. Like, of course we're all Americans. Of course we're all Arab.
I don't know if I count Texans as Americans.
You know what I mean? New Yorkers,
yeah,
New Yorkers,
Texans,
Californians,
but I don't know if
Floridians, whatever you want to call them.
So where do you think this comes from? Because this is what I was trying to understand in Good Trouble's live earlier. Some guy who looked like he had Hanson's haircut, but a hairline that started about a third of the way up his hair, but he just left it in the back. But the amount of anger and the amount of confidence that guy stood there and he was like, yeah, no, what Hamas is doing is justified. Like how did people become Hamas? How did Americans? Specifically you're looking at leftists and like young Americans? How did they get to the point where they're saying like, yeah, we're on the side of Hamas?
I don't know. I mean, if you want to,
but if anybody's welcome to come up and talk about if you do have that view, you're welcome to come up and talk about
Hamas does not mean resistance. That's not what it means. So Hamas it's an acronym for the Arab phrase. I'm going to butcher this. Understand that I'm going to butcher this. It's like haraka maklama, something like that.
You butchered it.
I do not speak. I do not speak the language, so please forgive me on it. But what it is, it's an acronym for the Islamic Resistance Movement. The Islamic Resistance Movement is a terrorist organization. That's what they are. Like don't think that Hamas just means resistance and just means that they're resisting the occupation of Israel, and that's all it is. That is not what it means. It's an Islamic resistance movement. It's much like you would call. It's very much more similar to something like the Proud Boys. It's based on very, very, very stoic traditionalism. It's based on nationalism at its finest. It's based on cruelty and.
Bro, is that your dog chomping on a bone? Is that what's going on?
Sorry, the dog is just chomping right now. Okay. So don't come at me and go Hamas is just resistance. That's all they are, and that's all they mean to do is they're just trying to resist the shit. That's not what it is. They're a terrorist organization, and if you can't, if the left can't come together and understand that Hamas is a terrorist organization, if they can't come together and understand just that basic principle, then they're just grossly misinformed. And there was another comment that came through that says Hamas is not Palestine. You are correct. You are correct. But Hamas has gotten so rooted into places like the Strip and the West Bank, the people that are there that are fighting are 17, 18-year-olds. They're just barely old enough to get there. They're barely old enough to fight. I mean, even by the United States standards, they're barely old enough to fight. And Hamas has been so ingrained in them. Resistance has been so ingrained in them, and they have brainwashed a generation of youth to resist something, and some of them don't even know what they're resisting.
When you see videos of the support,
Palestinians voted Hamas into power. Okay, please explain that. Please fucking explain how 17-year-olds voted them into power. Please go ahead. Teach me something about how this happened. I would love for you to come up and tell me how Palestine said, "Oh yeah, Hamas is the best thing for us." It'd be like fucking 16, 17-year-olds coming in and going, "Oh yeah, the GOP is great for us." Oh, fuck you. They don't know what they're talking about at that age. They barely know at 18. Shit, we barely knew at 18 what was the best for us. And when you have an entire country that is 17 and 18 years old, when you have all of your peers, you have very few that are older generational that can pass down wisdom and share that with you. You've got a bunch of teenagers that have been told, "Hey, this is the right thing." No, fuck off. Again, stop trying that shit with me. Stop trying. I'm tired of seeing that.
So when you say
Israel made Hamas, no.
So when they said that again, this is stuff I'm learning. When somebody's saying that the Palestinians voted in Hamas, what are they referencing?
They're referencing that, yes, on a technicality they have, but the problem the problem is simply this: you can't expect generation after generation after generation after generation of oppression from at least let's just set it at 1948. Let's just set it just for the purpose of this conversation. Since 1948, the people in Palestine have constantly been oppressed, pushed into war, occupation. They have been supported by the powerhouses of the world, the United States, the European Union. They're not supported by just a bunch of backyardigans that are like, "Hey, Israel is."
They are. I did check though. They are supported by the backyardigans. I just checked that. Just kidding, TikTok.
Can they be de-radicalized since they're so young? Yes, it takes time. But what has happened is the United States, the United Nations, as a whole, there's 32 different countries in here that have supported this conflict, and they've supported a conflict. They have not supported either side. Picking a side is not supporting a people. What we have done is we have supported a conflict constantly, a constant conflict. It's literally, in the best sense of the word, it's a fucking world war that's isolated in a very, very small area. There are 32 fucking countries involved in this. 32 countries involved in this. 32. You tell me where in the history of ever there have been 32 countries involved in something and it wasn't a world war. Please explain that to me. If you can come up here and you can explain that, I might accept some of your other things, some of your other ideals. But no, there's not a fucking chance. You can't explain 32 countries going, "Hey, we're going to support Israel," or "Hey, we're going to support Palestine." You can't tell me that. It's a fucking world war. That's what's going on, and it's based in conflict. It's so we can trade billions and trillions and military assets, dark money. It's the easiest way that we can get away with it. So fuck off.
So here's the tricky part for somebody like
I don't know why you keep bringing me into this.
That's okay. That works for me. Here's the tricky thing for me is as I'm learning this kind of on the fly. You've helped me out with this, and it's hard to form an opinion.
Has nothing to do with money. It's a spiritual war. Let me give you a little bit of insight, bud. The money is the spiritual part of it.
Yeah, I don't know much about the Middle East, but I do know a lot about religion, and money and religion kind of go hand in hand. But what I would ask, I've never heard anybody give me a solution, give me some sort of agreement we could come to, some sort of peace agreement that would make this work. Like, how do you? I guess practically speaking, not necessarily what's the right thing to do, but practically speaking, is there an out that's anytime soon?
So as recent as 1967, a two-state solution was viable. I don't know if it's truly viable at this point now, but in '67, during the Six-Day War, a two-state solution was viable at that point.
So what do you do now?
You hope. It's one of those things.
That's not good.
You hope.
That's not good.
It's one of those things to where unfortunately we've gotten to the pitch, the turning point. We've gotten to the point where the scales have been tipped so far into Israel's favor that there's no chance that a two-state solution is actually going to be viable at this point, unless everybody comes together and tells Israel to suck it, and this is the territory you're giving up, and this is what's going to happen, which has never happened in the history of ever. So I highly doubt that's going to happen. What I foresee happening at this point is Israel is going to take over the entire state, the entire territory, everything, Gaza Strip, West Bank. It's all going to be Israel at this point. And then we're going to see battles. We're going to see the battle change, and Israel's going to be under attack from all sides again. We're going to see Lebanon coming in. We're going to see Iran making some really, really big moves. We're just going to see a change in battle. All the radicalized youth that are being evacuated from the West Bank and from the Gaza Strip, all those radicalized youth that are losing their homes, that have been there their entire lives, that are being forced somewhere else, they're just going to be even more radicalized, and the war is just going to continue on. And so I highly doubt that a two-state solution is a solution at this point, unless the United Nations, NATO comes together, forces Israel into an agreement to where they give up quite a bit.
Anthony, I'd be happy to have you come up and talk. I'll moderate this whole night. Like, I'm happy to learn. So if there's people that, here's what I do. I'm not going to do one-on-one debates tonight. I'm cool with a discussion. I'm cool with a small panel. I'm cool with hopefully just 2, maybe 3 at the same time, and I'll try and moderate that. But Anthony keeps saying like he thinks there is a two-state solution. So tonight is a little bit different. It's not just one-on-one. It's not just opposition. If you feel like you have something to different than what Jake's had to say here, please jump up. Anthony, I don't know if you're available.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like I said, as recent as '67, that was possible. I just don't think that the two-state solution is actually viable anymore. And it sucks, because I've been for the two-state solutions for the last 20 years that I've been studying this. But you get to a point where occupation is so heavy and slow, there's so little territory left that what are you going to do?
Anthony, welcome.
Okay, Anthony.
One, apologies for having to look at my face.
It's your sole way to get
apology accepted, but not for long.
But the hair's sexy, so I got that going for me. I think, and I would like to believe and hope that the two-state solution is the only way in which my people and our cousins who are living in the same space, because we're all interrelated, it's the only way we have a chance to move forward. I think absent of the effort to do so, it's not that it's a cop-out. I know that it's hard. I know that it's difficult. But things like this are hard and difficult because there haven't been enough direct pressures on certain particular leaders within my people's government, who I
Correct.
don't want to say by name, because if I do, it'll just start a shitstorm, and I don't need people telling this Jew that I hate Jews or they're anti-Semitic, right? Because I get enough of that shit as is.
I know exactly what you're saying, and I know where you're getting at, Anthony, and that's what I was saying before, and I don't mean to cut you off, but that's exactly why the two-state solution is going to have such a hard time at this point, because the concessions that Israel in itself is going to have to make a two-state solution viable again, they're going to have to go back to the 48 lines. They're gonna have to do that. That's the only way that the Arab state is going to accept it. We know this. Everyone knows this. No one is saying any other way. And like I said, 67 was probably our last chance to do so. At this point, have you seen what the Palestinian territory looks like at this point? Have you seen what the Arab state looks like?
Yeah, I mean, now I haven't been there in a very long time. The last time I was there, I was working with the IDF. I was training the Navy on some boats that we had dropped off, and working with them on doing training. So this was quite a while ago. I do have friends that are there with the IDF, and I do have a couple of friends that are also there on the humanitarian side. So I have a fairly good grasp of what's going on. And again, I think this is going to be where it's going to take a village of world leaders to get together and come in there and be like, look, 56 years ago, we had the lines drawn in the right place. Let's go back to where we were 56 years ago. Let's actually make this real. But
so how do you think you can proceed with a two-state solution with, I mean, maybe this is a name you didn't want to say, but like how can we accomplish this with Netanyahu?
You can't.
So how long do we have until Netanyahu's gone?
Let's be honest. Let's be honest, and that's not even the case. That's not the truth. I mean, that's a part of a truth at this point. It's not Netanyahu that's the problem. It's the U.S. that's the problem. The U.S. will not stop backing Israel. They will not.
And this is where it gets, where I think I don't want to be picky about word choice, but I think it's important that, and I hope you agree with me on this, it's not about supporting Israel any more than evangelicals support Israel, right? It's about supporting the military-industrial complex that props up the Israeli government. That is different.
It's not just Israeli government. It's not just Israeli. It's not just Israelis. I mean, the amount of war that has been preceded in the last. I mean, look at the last 50 years of war that has gone on in the Middle East. Not just Israel. Look at the last 50 years of war that has been put on place. Why do you think we keep on going to war in the Middle East? Why do you think the Middle East keeps on coming up? Why do you think it's a constant battle zone there? It's because it's fed to be, it's bred to be, it's cultivated to be. It is a bunch of people that have known nothing but war their entire lives. And we've got these world powers, these amazing, incredible world powers beating on their chest and going, yeah, we support this side or we support the other side. And then we go in and we invade. We've done things. I mean, look at the Iraq War. Look at the absolute failure of the most powerful, arguably the most powerful military in the world. The most powerful military in the world could not go in and fix what happened. We couldn't do it.
Yeah. So we
don't want to. That's the trick. We don't want to.
I was in the Gulf on a minesweeper, which in and of itself is a pretty fucking crazy thing to have volunteered for during the time when the Gulf of Oman was full of sea mines. And I distinctly remember Iran's participation because I was there, right? So I was there when they were attempting to play schoolyard bully, but they soon forgot we have better boats. And so there's this nexus too that I think is important, is that geopolitically we have a lot of quote unquote political groups that aren't political groups, meaning they're not really there to help anyone's people prosper or move ahead, right? Hamas is just one example. It's not just Netanyahu and the Israeli government that's going to be a problem. Somebody's not going to go talk to Lebanon. Then somebody's going to have to go talk to Syria. Egypt at some point is going to be like, we're fucking sick and tired of doing all the talking, right?
Jordan.
And well, let me get to Jordan. I'm going to save Jordan for last on purpose.
I feel like Egypt tonight. Like I do all the talking all the time. I'm just listening. I'm Egypt. You call me Egypt tonight.
Okay. All right. It's a wonderful place. The problem with every act of colonialization or every act of toppling governments that our government has participated in the last 100+ years has also fostered a lot of resentment, right? So where we have bases, where we have boots on the ground, where we make political comments, all of these things are feeding into this larger narrative, right? And one of the things that I find most ironic about Jordan, because remember, Jordan was always last to the table, right? So Jordan was asked, hey, do you want to help the Palestinian people out? Now, what did Jordan say? They were like, fuck no, we don't want the Palestinian people here, right? So Jordan can't really say anything because they are an Arab state that literally turned Arabs away and consistently do so and consistently don't want to be a part of any of this. The unfortunate scenario for them is their geographical location. They're going to have no choice, right? Egypt can't keep carrying the water for us. And I am absolutely shocked and surprised, pleasantly so, that Egypt is constantly willing to come back to the table, is constantly willing to do things. Now, I get that there are probably various reasons why Egypt is doing this. But you are absolutely correct. Where we were in 1967, year of my birth, Capricorn, keep it real, is
God,
where we need
God
to
damn,
get.
man. Good job learning how to use a smartphone and the internet. That's pretty cool.
Hey, are you talking to me? Did you
And
did you think?
I'm just saying at that age, it's pretty good. You're doing really
Did,
Well, I
well.
can tell you,
did
I can tell you the reason that Egypt wants it to end on the Israel side
hit
as
me?
quickly as possible. It's because of Sudan and Libya. I mean, you've got to understand that
Yeah,
Egypt is fighting a war on. Egypt is in constant conflict, not necessarily a war, but they're in constant
right.
conflict. They have their hands full with Chad, they have their hands full with Libya, they have their hands full with Sudan. I mean, and then you jump into the problems that happens if they don't kind of keep their hands clean and kind of keep being the neutral good guy. Saudi Arabia, they're going to have problems with Saudi Arabia. They're going to have problems with. They don't want that smoke. Is ultimately what it is. And so Egypt's just going to keep going. Let's just talk about it, guys. Because as long as we're talking about it, y'all aren't coming here, and I can deal with my other shit down here. Like that's
Yeah.
ultimately been Egypt's stance for 70 years.
Yeah, and I think one of the amazing things that we're not talking about Egypt is if you just go back 10 years, look at what an amazing turnaround they've had, right? 10 years ago, we weren't speaking, well, the United States government, was not necessarily high on Egypt, right? And they have had constant turmoil and internal political issues that they've been dealing with for the last 150 years, right? What's amazing to me is how they keep being the voice of reason. Now, that should be disconcerting for everyone geopolitically when Egypt is known as the voice of reason, while the United States as a supposed, global superpower isn't, right? We have to not pick sides, right? The death of innocent people, irrespective of
Let me
what
ask this though. This
happens, is
I,
bullshit. Yeah, go ahead.
I appreciate. First of all, I appreciate the conversation. I'm learning a lot. Um, the issue I have as I go through these lives and I try and piece this stuff together is I hear a lot. I learn a lot. I know a lot about history now. I'm learning more about the surrounding countries. What I can never get anybody to nail down is how do we come to a solution? Obviously, it's not going to come to a peaceful end at this point. There's
Yeah.
still going to be more atrocity, but is there a way that we come to a solution?
Short
Well,
of short of Anthony's, stake and NATO actually growing some balls, getting together, the U.S. backing
What
getting
does that look
both.
like? NATO growing some balls, and
They
then
get everybody at the table.
not.
They
Don't
get
tell me
everybody.
what balls look like. But yeah, what does a solution like that look
They get
like?
everybody. They get everybody at the table, including
Who's everybody?
Israel, including Israel and the Palestinian state. They get every country that's in NATO, and everybody goes. Israel, this is what you're going to give up. We're going to declare an Israeli state, and we're going to declare an Arab state. This is what I often
And the
challenge people to
Arab
do.
and the Arab state would go like, where would that division be potentially?
The only thing that's ever been agreed upon in the area, the only thing that's ever been agreed upon is the 1948 lines that were originally drawn. Now, what happened there, and I've said this multiple times, and a lot of people don't understand this, Israel was declared. The Arab state was never declared. And because the Arab state was never declared, Israel has basically had free momentum to occupy.
Can you explain why the Israel or the Arab state was never declared?
Because both people weren't at the table when Israel was declared. They weren't there.
Was what year?
It was based on religion, 1948.
48. Great.
Yep.
Okay.
So I've told everybody this, like literally the day before Israel was declared as a state, there was a massacre that justified the hailing of Israel as a state. There were 129 Jews killed the day before, and then NATO came in and said, well, due to this, we're declaring a state. And basically what they did at that point, and they knew what they were doing, they declared war on everyone around Israel is what they did. They declared the state. They knew that they were going to have to support them. They knew that they were going to have to continue to support in that area. They knew that was going to happen. It was faith-based for the U.S. We believe there's a lot of Christian nationalists. There's been many Christian nationalists throughout the entirety of our union since then that have come to the table. Even under Britain rule, it was still faith-based rule based on keeping Israel alive and keeping it from falling. Because if Israel falls, the apocalypse comes. There's a bunch of hoodoo voodoo out there that people are still fucking falling behind. And I don't mean to insult you and your faith, Anthony. I hope I'm not doing that. I hope I'm not at all, because that's not the point of this. It's mostly against Christian idiots, and I'll just say it out loud. It's mostly against Christian idiots that have backed this based on nothing more than a document that can't even be proven. And so you go through, you try to create a two-state solution at this point. Again, go Google. For those of you who don't know, go to Google Maps and type in Palestine. Please, type it in.
On it.
Tell me what it shows you. Give you a hint.
Nothing.
Go do it. I mean, it's weird, right?
It doesn't do anything.
Now type in Israel in Google Maps.
It's the same.
Gives you a little drop down to click on it, right?
Well, I mean, maybe they just didn't let. Maybe they didn't let the little car in Palestine. Is that what you're getting at now? They didn't let the little cars go through. That's wild. Actually, I don't mean to joke too much, but that's crazy.
What I'm getting at is Palestine was never declared. It's not.
Right.
It's not an Arab state. Palestine does not exist on a map because it's not. It doesn't have statehood. It's not there. It should be.
So one of the things that you were asking is how we get people to the table, right? And I think this is the hard part. Well, yeah, you could force them. The shame of it is that Jimmy Carter is not physically and mentally able to pull himself out of bed and come sit down with people. The last president that had any sway at all of any kind that was good was Jimmy Carter when it comes to the Middle East. He was the one that sat down and took the time, and that fucking peanut farmer was a genius and does not get credit for the amount of work that he did, right? I don't believe politically right now that's something our president can do on his own. I think that the calculated risk of that of where we are politically here can't be done by himself. It could be in unison with certain people from the UN that would help, but we have to be one of the first handful of folks at the table. And without us stepping up and initiating and driving this process, it's going to be really hard. But we have to pick up the phone and call Egypt. We've got to pick up the phone and call Jordan and be like, okay, look, what are we going to do? And we need to figure out what is behind the canceling of that meeting.
Is it
Right?
possible
Something.
that is it possible Biden just hasn't figured out how to call Egypt? Is that possible? Have we looked into that? And Jordan,
Rotary phones.
it's possible.
I mean,
It might be.
I did want
I
to welcome
remember.
Michael. I don't know, Michael, if you have some opposing views here, but welcome.
Yeah, and all jokes aside, I did have a rotary phone as a kid, so there you go.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah,
That's how you dial a number.
yeah. That it took a strong finger.
Zeros, man. Zeros were the worst.
Yeah, took forever.
Don't say strong finger when this Discord's here. Michael, what did you want to add?
Well, I was taking some exception to what this person in the box above me was saying.
I have a name.
I don't know where he went. Well, wherever he went. Anyway,
He just got removed for community guidelines.
it wasn't me.
I
It
swear,
wasn't me.
this guy. I know this guy cannot keep like an account.
Every time I'm on with him, he gets a ban.
That's
It's me.
crazy.
I am like I'm like the black cat of TikTok. If you
wasn't
want a
even talking.
community guideline violation, just invite me up. Just my
Well, we'll
mere
see what
presence.
happens. All right, Mike. Well, maybe
Yeah.
Anthony, because Anthony and Jake are kind of on the same page a little bit. Maybe you can talk to Anthony about it.
Well, I see a lot of lives. I listen during the day sometimes and then try to join at night. But and I hear other persons like yourself that host lives that get quite a few viewers. And I never hear them pick a side. They always say they're not going to pick a side. We have two aircraft carriers, all the support vessels. That's only the ones we know about going to that region for the United States interests. And it's hard for me to understand how people in the United States, for the United States, can say, oh, I can't pick a side. It's pretty easy for me to pick a side when my countrymen are out there willing to put their lives on the line to protect our interests and our allies in the Middle East. There's our greatest ally is surrounded by countries in which wish to have them destroyed. Their first day, May 14th, 1948, after they became a state, immediately after Egypt, Iraq, Jordan, Syria, and Lebanon invaded them, the Arab-Israeli war. Somehow these people who had just survived the Holocaust barely had clothes, barely had organization, somehow defended themselves from these invaders. All through the years since then, all the efforts for peace have failed. Even the concessions they've made, the peace treaty with Egypt, giving them Sinai back, everything has failed because they refuse to acknowledge that state in their midst. And I think what perpetrated this event now was because they saw Israel close to getting some recognition and relations with Saudi Arabia. And I think that is one of the things, and you can read about that prompted this. In any case, those countries, Syria, Lebanon, Iran, will not stop. Even if as long as the Israelis are there, it's not going to stop them from their objective, which is to remove them.
Yeah, sure. So just for context, because I don't know if you heard, sorry, everybody else that did. So I'm a veteran of the United States Navy. I've been in the Middle East on several different occasions, and I'm also a Jew. So just for context, I get where you're coming from, but it's also important. The Seventh Fleet is always in the Middle East. They're never not in the Middle East. There's always an aircraft carrier group somewhere in the Middle East. It's a part of a set of ports that we visit, right? So, peacetime, wartime, the Seventh Fleet is simply always there. Now, it is unusual to have multiple carrier groups unless there is an active feeder and they're going one team on, one team off, right? So we're there quite often, and I would take exception to anyone stating which one particular country is our strongest ally. I think that does a great misjustice to the European nations that have been supporting us for the last 200 plus years. So,
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I meant of our allies in the Middle East. That's what I meant. So
we yeah, technically we have one. And you're right, Saudi Arabia and the other nations within the Middle East are at odds with each other and have been for thousands of years. You'd have to look all the way up to the branching of and now I'm going to forget the terms because I'm on a live. Good Lord. Sunni and Shia
that's
Muslims
right.
and
That's right.
that division, right? So nobody in and around Israel likes Saudi Arabia. And that whole peace accord, if you will, which was unnecessary and a PR stunt, doesn't benefit Israel in any way, shape, or form, but it certainly does further benefit Saudi Arabia's access to military weapons and things of that nature via our support. So it it comes down to a lot of really bad actors that don't like Jews. It comes down to the fact that Israel never was able to get that two-state solution solidified. And there is a lot of blame that can be thrown around, but short of there being any kind of actual actions being taken, I don't know what type of discussion we have outside of an academic one, right? Because until action is taken to stop this current event and to have some sort of a ceasefire, I don't see people having the fortitude from a leadership perspective to do what's required. And again, um, I, I I don't like the killing of innocent people. I don't like the cutting off of humanitarian aid to innocent people. I don't like the unjustified bombings of innocent people. And no matter how it started, it's how this thing is going to end that is of the utmost importance. The last thing we need is to be drawn into another protracted event that inevitably we had a hand in causing.
I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you on quite a few of those points. I would just point out, though, for anybody listening, and you can look this up, Article 13 of the Hamas Charter states peace initiatives, peaceful solutions, international conferences are in construction are in contradiction to the principles of Islamic resistance movement. Those conferences are no more than a means to appoint the infidels as arbitrators to the lands of Islam. There is no solution for the Palestinian problem except by jihad. Initiatives, proposals, and international conferences are but a waste of time, an exercise in futility. That's in their charter. Hamas, there was no need for a ceasefire except for the fact that they perpetrated a terrorist attack on October 6th and October 7th. Um, these the food and the water. Of course, everybody wants innocent people to have food and water. Israel doesn't supply all of the water. They supply some of the water. Food, obviously, we want them to have food. They have stockpiles of gasoline. They tried another attack from the ocean, and that was thwarted. That could have been as bad as October 6th. Um, Hamas has a grip on the Palestinian people. And if any progress in any way is ever to be made, it's got to start with the ending of Hamas and their grip on the Palestinian people. I feel like, and I think most people would agree, if Hamas was removed from the equation, there could be peace in that region. It would take time, but it has to start with the ending of Hamas and the terror attacks. And Israel is a very unique place. It's the home of the most tech startup companies in the world. If you go to Google Earth and look around in in uh, in Israel and go to Gaza and look at that, go to the West Bank and look at that, they could build that area up. If rid of Hamas, that area, you would see it spring to life. You would definitely see it spring to life. There's so many Arab Israelis that live in Israel that are doctors, lawyers. They serve in the parliament. Israel is really not is moving away from being referred to as a Jewish state. They're more secular now. It's a very open society, and I think that it has to start with the ending of Hamas if they ever want peace.
So I think he stepped away. I guess I can address something you brought up earlier today, and maybe you can address this. But I think that comment was directed at me. It's saying I'm not going to take a side, and my only question is like, how do you take a side when both sides are unaliving innocent lives? Like, why do I need to take a side?
Um, when you say unaliving innocents,
Yeah.
well, obviously, you can't equate a retaliation to a terrorist attack to the
No,
terrorist.
I certainly can when it's unaliving innocent people. I certainly can.
Okay, when the terrorists use human shields and you
Uh huh.
try to remove that element of the innocence the best you can, but you have to take out missiles and rockets in which are aimed at your
Wait,
civilians.
but hold on, hold
How
on.
do you
There
achieve
were plenty. There were plenty of people who were unalive that were not being used as human shields. That's silly. That's silly to you're taking instances to justify the unaliving of other innocent people. I'm saying in a conflict like this, how can I as a principled person from across the ocean sit here and say like I'm definitely going to take a side on this? No, I look at both sides taking the lives of innocent people. I see the Palestinian people who do not support Hamas. Those people are being unalived. How can I support Israel?
it? You're just dismissing what perpetrated it.
No, no. I think what you're dismissing is that there are innocent lives being taken, and you're kind of okay with that in this idea that like it's for the greater good. I'm saying that no, I cannot support anybody who makes the decision to unalive innocent people. I cannot support that. I won't
Okay,
support that.
one side you absolutely know for a fact did that on purpose, right?
What do you think? You think though? You
You know
think
Hamas did
you
that.
think the retaliation was on accident? You think they just didn't know where anything was? You think there
Well,
was no intel? Like they have an iron dome, but they don't have the intel to figure out where they're bombing?
of course they do, and
Okay, well then you
they.
can't tell me that it wasn't on purpose. This
You can't
essentially is
tell
the
me that
game
it
of who's
was. You can't tell
to
me that.
me.
You cannot tell me that they did it intentionally to harm civilians.
They knew the outcome.
Well, if you have to defend your civilians from rocket attacks, and the terrorists use human
You have
shields,
an you have
you
an
know
iron
what
you have an iron dome. You're impenetrable. You're 10 times the
well,
size.
how did the Iron Dome stop the 250 people who were killed at a concert?
It
How could that?
didn't.
How did that
It
could have
didn't.
prevented it?
It didn't. But I look. And again, I'm not an expert, but I'm smart enough to know. I watch videos of missile after missile after missile being deflected by the Iron Dome. It seemed to give quite a bit of protection.
Well,
Meanwhile, the
what about the
Palestinians have.
10% that get hurt?
Hold on. Meanwhile, the Palestinians have their back against the ocean. They have nowhere to go. It is perfectly okay for me to criticize Israel and say that the response by Israel is also bad. I don't understand why I have to pick a side here.
Okay, I put it like this: if you don't pick a side, then you're giving leniency to the terrorists. Or you have to at least pick a side to say I'm against the
What's the
terrorists.
difference between innocent lives being taken because you're a terrorist and innocent lives being taken because you're the state? What is the moral difference?
It's a huge moral
What?
difference
What's the
because they
difference?
wouldn't be defending themselves and other people wouldn't be unalived if it hadn't been for the terrorist attack.
Okay, so you're saying that you're morally justified to take innocent lives as long as innocent lives were taken against your people first.
I'm not saying that.
Well,
It's
then what
just
are
a,
you saying?
it's the what happens in war. It gets ugly. Nobody likes it, but it's a fact.
Yeah,
And
that's
it
what
was
I
all
just said. I just
started
said,
because of
yeah,
the
that's what I
terrorists.
said. That's exactly what I just said. Like you're okay with it, as I said that from the beginning. You're okay with it as it's just part of war. I do not understand why as Americans I cannot for the life of me. Nobody has ever given me any sort of argument that I could buy into that says I support Israel, I stand with Israel, or I stand with Hamas, or I stand with Palestine. Like outside of like the innocent Palestinians, those who do not support Hamas, like who in this is at fault? Hamas and the state of Israel, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't understand how I'm supposed to take a side here.
Well, I guess we just see things a bit different.
I
I
get
see it.
that.
I
That's
I
fine,
see it
but
a little
this
bit
is the thing
differently
that
than
I
you.
don't like about this conversation is when you say we see things different. I'm saying both of these sides are horrific and are unaliving innocent people, and you're saying not that they're not doing that, but you're saying that it's justified. That's the difference between our opinion, really.
I will say it wholeheartedly that that Israel has a right to defend its civilians from terrorist attack. That's a fact.
Yeah, I think that's where you have the disagreement. But again, not an expert. I'll go back to mute. But go
And
ahead.
I'll
Welcome,
just say
Coney.
one more thing about the state of living conditions there in Gaza, even separate from all of this, what's happening. 2/3 of the women there report forms of physical abuse, mental abuse. Uh, the amount of children that are given in marriage under the age of 15, and you can go look this up on UNICEF website. It's well documented. They have a lot of work to do aside from these other situations that go on with Israel within their own community there. And I'll leave it at that.
I think Coning's back, or Anthony, if you want to respond to that.
Yeah, so I think the difficulty in the sides argument is twofold, and there's someone in the comments that said something, and I can't remember the user's name, but I agree with the one comment that caught my eye, in that sometimes, and I'm paraphrasing, so if I get this wrong, comment or don't come at me. Sometimes there's a conflation about sides, right? There are two parties that are currently killing innocent people. It's true that in war, innocent people get killed. That doesn't mean it's a good idea or that it should happen. And I don't think that Hamas is one side and the state of Israel is another side. I think there are multiple sides to this. and that two of the parties are the Israeli government responding to the attacks on Israeli citizens and Hamas's mission. And then we got some toes. And Hamas's mission, like that literally just caught the bottom of my eye, and I need eye bleach now. And then there is Hamas and their belief system in which all of my people should be wiped off the face of the earth. Now, there is also the United States. There is also Syria. There is also Lebanon. There is also Iran. There is also Saudi Arabia. We are all parties to this unfortunate situation. And again, it really is difficult for me to not be biased, but I acknowledge that as a Jew, that difficulty, and I try not to let my bias get in the way of having a logic discussion, because that's what I see this as, is that if I can keep my emotions out of this, if I can keep my anger at bay, I can have a discussion with people who have varying and differing points of view from mine for whatever reason. And I acknowledge that those are their positions, and I'm okay with them having their positions. What I'm not okay with, however, is having terms dictated, right? So I hope we can refrain from statements like you have to pick a side or there's two sides, or because the fact of the matter is there's never been a war with just two sides. It doesn't exist. And to say so is quite intellectually dishonest. And I get it, right? Because from an emotional viewpoint, it's easier to boil it down to sides. But there are no sides here. There are active participants and active parties that have been directly or indirectly participating, and the culmination of that participation is what we had. And I'm not going to be intellectually dishonest as a Jew and not acknowledge that bad shit has happened, and that the loss of life of my people is fucking horrible, as to is what has happened to the people that live in Gaza and in the West Bank, although Gaza much worse, right? I guess the hardest thing for me to come to grips with is that there may not be a solution. And that is heart-wrenching and heartbreaking. Because, again, as I said in the very fucking beginning of this conversation, oh, there's an F-bomb. Yeah, sorry. Koenig, now you're going to get banned again because I dropped an F-bomb.
Yeah, Jake's on his way out for that one.
we are all one people, right? And we need to acknowledge that, and to allow simply religion as a way to have our own defining character, I think needs to stop too. Far too many people have been unalived in the name of X. And I really would like to see an end to that. I really would like to have a seat at the table, although I'm not qualified to. But in the absence of smart people like Jimmy Carter, I think it's incumbent upon myself to extend a branch of understanding and to extend invitation to criticism. People are more than welcome to pop in the box and criticize what I'm saying. You can't insult me. You can't poke the bear, even though I'm shaped like one. It's okay to have differing points of view. And I think one of the good things is that this particular platform and others have really allowed people to find a voice. Doesn't mean I agree with all those voices, but here we are. And by the way, just so you know, this boomer had to go to tethered headphones because the Samsung earbuds battery had died. And also because I'm fucking fat and lazy, I got myself a tripod and put it on the coffee table in front of me so I don't have to hold the phone. So there you go. And I'm not a boomer,
There's a lot
but
of
I like to insult myself. So there you go.
there's a lot of comments going right now asking for a pro-Palestine voice in the box. I think I would identify as pro-Palestine. I'd also identify as pro-Israel. Like
Yeah,
riding the
I
fence in this situation is very different than riding the fence in other conflicts. It's not like being on the side of Russia or Ukraine. It's not on the side of being
who
other
was that
wars that have
that made
happened.
that comment?
There's a lot of
Hey,
people here.
fuck Hamas. Come up in the box.
Hey,
Yeah,
I can hop off. Thanks, RTP and Anthony. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you,
man.
Michael. Appreciate it, man.
Appreciate you, Michael. Thank you. And come on, fuck Hamas. You're the one whose comment I appreciated. Come up,
There we go.
please.
There we
Oh, there
go.
you are. I don't even know who you
absolutely
are.
fuck Hamas.
Yep. Hello.
I think every one of us up here have said fuck Hamas
I'll be
at some
back in a
point.
second. I got to pee.
Oh no. Oh, well, hello.
Hey,
Hello.
Oh, darn it! Finally get to talk to RTP, and he's out, draining. In any
He's
case,
peeing.
no, my whole viewpoint here is that the whole situation's messy. I completely agree with you, Anthony. In regards to just about 99% of what you said. The only thing I would do is take it a little bit more sternly and, in the fact that I don't think we're going to be removing religion from the equation. I don't believe that that's a possibility. That's an ideal. Um, it's 100,000% not going to happen in that region. It's not going to happen in any meaningful, urgent, imminent way that'll help get us out of this situation. Um, what needs to happen here at this point, we need to be pragmatic about. There's gonna be a ground offensive. They need to go physically into Gaza City and into Gaza, uh, temporarily occupy it because they're going to need to take out Hamas and its infrastructure, and they're going to need to have some kind of referendum for the Palestinian people to re-elect a new government. That is the reality of what is going to occur. People may not
Who
like it,
does that?
but that is what is going to occur.
Yeah,
Well,
I'd ask you
I
who
mean,
does that.
it'll be kind of a redux of what we saw in Afghanistan, where
Oh,
America
so
went
when
in.
we got rid of Al Qaeda and then got rid of ISIS, right? We did both of those things.
Well, we didn't, but we really there's no other way out. There's going to have to be a
When have we
lot of
ever?
lessons learned. Um,
Any country, any of the major powers gone into a occupied a state and it helped with democracy and gotten rid of terrorist organizations? When has that ever happened?
never.
Oh, never, but there's
So
literally no alternative at this point. You
you,
can't do a
you
half measure here and kill,
if you're
a
talking about getting
third
rid
of
of
them.
Hamas, you're not just talking about what's in the Gaza Strip. You're not just talking about what's in the West
Honestly.
Bank. You're talking about getting into another conflict with Iran. You're talking about getting into another
Lebanon.
conflict with Iraq, Lebanon. I mean, the list of countries goes on and on. You're talking about something that's not the solution. Going in and getting rid of terrorist organizations has never been an American strong point. In fact, I think we're 0 for 10 in that status. We've never done it. We've never been able to. The U.S. particularly is actually really bad at it. In fact, we're really good at creating terrorist
Can,
organizations. And so
can you
what's going to
name a
happen is we're going
country
to
on
go.
the planet of Earth that is? I mean, can you name
No, and that's what I'm
any
saying. Why?
anyone?
Why would you? Then why would that even be a viable solution? Why would that say we need to go and occupy the ground in Gaza and get rid of Hamas? What you're saying is, this is what's again, fuck Hamas. But what you're saying is we need to go in and we need to kill a bunch of 17-year-olds. That's what you're telling me.
No, no, no. What I am saying is
Who is Hamas then? Who
you
is
go
Hamas?
in
Tell me who Hamas is.
physically to the strongholds, street by street, which
Who
is,
is Hamas?
well, the Hamas is who they've got identified as
Who
who
is
they.
Hamas? I want you to tell me the demographic of Hamas because I already know it.
Well, hell, it's going to be the demographic of Palestine and the folks in Gaza, which skew extremely young. That's unfortunate, but it is what it
So
is.
you're so again, what you're saying is it's unfortunate, but it's okay that we go in and we
Look,
completely
there's a
eliminate a
reality
bunch of
there.
16 and 17-year-olds.
Well, it was 16 and
No,
17-year-olds that were there in Israel on October the 7th. Are you going to give them a free pass? If 16 and
I'm not
17-year-olds
giving any of
marched
them a
from
free
the
pass.
border of Indiana
I'm not
to
giving any of them a free
Kentucky
pass.
and marched into
Nope.
people's homes, drug them out, put them on a
Nope.
motorcycle, drove them into a cave and, held them there for a couple of weeks,
Your
would they
allegory
be
images,
charged
and
as
your
an adult?
it's not going to happen.
These
It's
are so
this
far removed from what you can perceive as, singularly, that it's a whole different ballgame and different world.
You are so on one side that you don't even realize how genocidal you sound.
It,
That's the problem, and that's the problem with the left.
no,
That's the problem with the right. That's the problem with both sides. This is the problem with both sides. This is the problem with taking a side. We can all say fuck Hamas. We all agree fuck Hamas because that's a bunch of old guys in Qatar pulling the strings on a bunch of 16 and 17-year-olds in an occupied territory. We can say that. I can get behind you 100% on that, but I cannot get behind you in saying, hey, we as a power, let's continue to support a conflict. Let's continue to encourage a conflict by occupying that place and going after 16 and 17-year-old men and women, children. We're going to be going after them. We're going to be eliminating them from the face of the earth. That's what we're saying. We're saying at this point they've made their choice. Fuck them. That is not the way
and
the
I'm not
solution works.
saying
That's not how
very
this happens.
specifically go run and target,
You're
minors.
saying to target the strongholds.
No,
Who do you
I'm
think is occupying the
no, I'm
strongholds
saying
in the Gaza Strip?
no, I'm saying go target Hamas. I'm saying go target people who
Where?
are
Well,
coming
can,
at you
Who
with
are
rocket
they?
launchers.
yeah, can I
That's what
can
I'm
I
telling you.
can
Who
I ask
are
a
they?
couple? Let me ask a couple of questions. One, and I got to stop saying this because this is not your name. Just for clarification purposes, because I don't want to just keep saying "fuck Hamas" when I'm talking to you,
Okay, yeah,
right?
my name's Andy. You can Andy.
Andy, thank you,
Yeah.
Andy.
Thank you.
Now, second
Nice to
question.
meet you, Andy.
Very good to meet you. Thank you. Are you a member of the tribe? And I only ask just for my understanding.
No, I'm not. I
Okay.
only do that. I'm just an ally.
Okay. All right. So here's kind of the thing that I want you to, as best you can, hear what I'm saying, and I'm not adding you. I'm not coming at you. Right. One, I moved far too fucking slow. So if you couldn't move out of my way, it'd be like being run over by a Zamboni.
It kind of
When
it
you
kind of comes at you at like a slow drip. It's just very slow.
Yeah, yeah, with great fucking hair. Here's the thing: when I hear people say, "Just root out Hamas," or "Just do this to this people," or "Just do that to that people," I need you to understand what that does to somebody like me who's been in the military and who is a Jew, because that thing that you're saying, that thing that you're hinting at, is what happened to us. And so we got to be very careful about thinking we can so easily identify strongholds or members of Hamas. There is a reason why the IDF hasn't gone in for full bore, because they know too that this is a fucking hornet's nest, and this is not something they can just simply root out. It's not like Roto-Rooter coming and taking fucking vines out of your plumbing or unclogging a toilet. This is a very damn near impossible John Wick style task that he's not going to complete either. I don't know who Hamas is or what they look like. I know what they stand for, and I know what their actions have been. But I'm pretty fucking sure that I couldn't stand in the street and point at somebody and claim to know that that's what they are. So let's be very careful about talking around how do we identify people. I'm sure that Mossad has intelligence on certain leaders, but that's not the entirety of Gaza, right? And we,
Absolutely not, and I wouldn't
right,
say so. And that's
right.
more what I'm leaning towards is, when I say an occupation or go in or put in a ground offensive, I'm talking about going into those strongholds of the leadership of Hamas
Well,
that Mossad knows of, but that they can't get to with easy aerial bombardment. because that
Well, you
happens,
can't.
they're being
You
forced to
can't.
kill somebody.
So here's what the
Unless
United
it's
States. Here's what the
I
United States.
get. Again,
Just
I'm gonna say
real quick.
this. Go ahead, Anthony. Sorry.
Okay. Here's what the United States military has learned about going into neighborhoods and fighting a fucking war. Don't do it because you can't. It's unsuccessful. Now, we have tried knocking down doors in 2 different countries, and I had to participate in escorting too many fucking bodies back home. You can't just go into an urban area and kick doors down without putting an
There's
incredibly large amount of boots on the ground. It is unsafe. Too many innocent people are going to die, and that's not how we need to fix this problem.
Oh,
and
I
again,
100% agree.
uh,
You know
I'm
that
gonna
it's
add to what Anthony
probably
said. Give me 1 second here. When I ask you who Hamas is, you have this idea in your head that we're going to go into the Gaza Strip, we're going to go into the West Bank, and we're going to find these hornets' nests, we're going to find these fortresses, and we're going to find Hamas leadership. That's what the idea, and that's what you're visualizing, that we're going to go knock down doors, we're going to get rid of the leadership. The leadership is not there. They're not there. There are a bunch of
well,
old guys sitting in other countries. There are a bunch of old guys sitting in Qatar. There are a bunch of old guys sitting in Saudi Arabia. There are a bunch of old guys sitting in Iraq and Iran. That's where this is. You don't understand that Hamas, the people that are there, the children that are
well, I
there
may
that have been
paraphrase that, and
brainwashed to
maybe
be
I'm
Hamas.
looking more for the middle management or their bread and butter, their top lieutenants.
Maybe maybe
You're
Andy's
absolutely
saying
correct.
we could
Yeah,
page them and see if we could get them to swing
yeah,
by.
yeah.
Maybe that's what
Hey,
Andy was
yeah.
saying.
Hey,
It's
earnestly,
not.
that
It's
might
just.
work. You know.
That's genuinely not that's not the case, and that's what I'm trying to express here. That's what I'm trying to express to a lot of the chat here. There's a lot of people that aren't understanding what being pro-Palestine or what being pro-Israel is at this point. I am not pro-IDF. I am not pro-Hamas. I am not. I am pro-Palestine. I would love. I have preached this multiple times that a two-state solution was the most viable chance at this region. I have also preached that at this point, that so much occupation with the backing of large superpowers in the world has allowed Israel to take over so much of what once could have been called Palestine. There's a reason that I ask you to Google Palestine on Google Maps. Go ahead and do it. It takes you to a region, but it doesn't. Palestine is not a
Oh,
state.
it's never been a state.
It
In
is
the most
not.
traditional sense. Yeah.
And
It doesn't exist.
it's not the past. It's not like the past. It's over. No, 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 no. This was as recent as 1967 that we had peace talks where we had both sides at the table discussing and very, 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 very highly considering a two-state solution. This is not all the way back in 1948 that was the last time it was talked about. There have been opportunities over and over and over and over and
Oh no,
over.
I agree. I'm 100% aware of those different offerings, and I'm still for a two-state solution. I agree. I think that's the best way to get out of the situation. Is
It would
and
have
I
been.
think
Would have been
I, I,
at this point, unless every nation comes together that is pro-Israel, unless every pro-Israel country, specifically, and I say pro-Israel country, comes together and tells Israel, we are going to do this, and you're just going to have to deal with it, or you're not going to get any support from us again. That's the only way that a two-state solution is going to happen at this point. And
no.
what I'm telling you is
So
it will
what
not
is your
happen.
current
The
fear?
United
Is
States
that
is already
Israel
done
is
this.
just literally going to take all of the land forever?
No, it's not
That
a fear. There's no fear here. That's not what this is
that's
on my
not
side.
a
It
reality
is
that's going to
sadness.
occur.
Oh,
There
it's
is no
absolutely
reality
going to
here
occur.
where they are taking Palestine. There is no permanent
Where
taking
is
Palestine
Palestine?
from
Show
Israel.
me Palestine on a map, please.
Israel is not going in. Israel doesn't want Gaza. They don't want
What are
the
you
West
talking
Bank.
about? They have absolutely 100% occupied all but a very small percentage. If you look at the
The
original
strip we're
drawings of
talking
when
about, they have
if
no
you look at
interest
the
in.
original, of course, because it's been an open air prison. What better place to keep people and then just block them over in borders and block two
Well,
million people in
beyond
the
what
size of the
you're
Salt Lake Valley?
inferring, or insinuating there, the situation at hand is they are not trying to go in and be like, I really want this strip of land. I'm going to sacrifice everything I've got in our standing in the world.
That's what they said 30 years ago. That's what they said 30 years ago when they pushed in more occupation into
They want to
Palestinian territory.
sacrifice their relationship with
That's
the
what
United
happened when it
States
was
and
60
go to
years ago.
complete war with
That was what
every
happened
Arab
when they,
nation and every neighboring country
it's
and
already
complete
happening.
annihilation
It's already
over,
happening.
30
They're
square
already in
miles.
conflict with Lebanon again. What are you talking about? It's already happening. It's
They just had war with
100% happening.
Lebanon and Syria.
And
They were
it's getting worse. And U.S.
They're
support is
already at
bolstering.
war.
And U.S. support is bolstering at this point. We have continued
Of
to
course it's
bound our
bolstering.
chest, and we show this.
We
If
are
Israel did
daring
not have the
Hezbollah
backing
to
of it,
step over the line.
we have occupied and continue to press and continue to take land from what could have been the Arab state of Palestine. From those people, we have occupied and slowly put them into the tiniest land spaces possible. Look at the history. Look at the original lines. Look at where Israel originally was. Look at where it is now. Look at occupied territory by Israel from 1948 to now. And you cannot sit there on where you're sitting and tell me that Israel has not slowly occupied all Palestinian land. They have done it. They will continue to do that. So they will continue to until that entire area is Israel. And they will go to war with Lebanon. They will go to war with Syria. They will go to war with all the surrounding countries, because guess who backs them up? The most powerful nations in the world. We sell more military equipment to Israel than almost any developed nation in the world. Do you realize do you realize who has the second most F-16s in the world next to the United States? Go ahead. I'm sure you can guess. Guess who has the second most F-35s? Go ahead. I'll let you guess that one too. Crazy how they get those from the biggest military in the world. It's amazing how we continue to sell there on a conflict. It's amazing how the United States continues to bolster and profit off of conflict. It's amazing how 32 developed countries have their hands in this. What I'm telling you, and this is just a fact that not enough people are realizing at this point, the Zionist movement worked. It 100% worked. They are going to take over the region. It is going to be the end of what we knew as the Palestinian people. They are going to evacuate them. They are going to slowly get them out of there. They're going to do it in the name of destroying Hamas. They're going to.
Can you define for me? Can you define for me what the Zionist movement is and why you're against it?
Why I'm against the Zionist movement?
No,
because the Zionist movement, the original
Zionist movement is,
the original Zionist movement was returning the land that was promised to Abraham and his children. That's what the original Zionist movement was about. The original Zionist movement was Jews returning to their homeland. In 1948, we granted that. We did that just absolutely with a swift of the pen. We said, "Here's Israel, right there, boom, done." There were millions of displaced Jews from the worst atrocity that they've ever experienced in the history of their people. Right there, millions just displaced. And we said, here's your home, here you go. Now, we did so knowing that we were putting them in a conflict zone. Don't tell me that we didn't know that. We knew that because the day before we declared that state, the day before, there was a massacre of Jewish people. There was 129 Jewish people that were unalived the day before we declared Israel a state. So you cannot tell me that this country wasn't born of conflict and continue to be in conflict. You cannot tell me that Israel has not slowly occupied Palestine and what the Arab states should have been declared as. They have slowly occupied all of that area. It has happened. It is 100% happening. It is going to continue to happen until Israel is the only occupation in that territory. And they're just going to continue to fight Lebanon. They're going to continue to fight Syria. They're going to do so with the backing of the United States and the other superpowers of the world. That's what's going to happen. That is why it's such an atrocity. That is why taking the side of Israel or taking the side of Palestine is not a solution. This is a situation to where you cannot take a side because you're either siding with the IDF or you're either siding with Hamas at this point. That's what you're saying when you're saying, hey, we need to pick a side and go eradicate the other. That's what's happening.
Not, and then don't put words in my mouth. I am saying...
Who is Hamas? I've asked you this multiple times. Who is Hamas?
And I have told you that is up to Mossad. That is up to IDF. That is up to Israel and who they are identifying in their intelligence. And Hamas are human beings that are committing acts of terror. As far as literally
Specifically,
identifying
who are
names,
they?
rank and file, they're going to be people who are throwing, rockets across borders. They're going to be the ones ordering people to throw rockets across borders. As far as who those specific people are, go ask someone in Mossad. As far as how we find and remove those
They're
people
in
and remove their
Qatar.
capacity to do such horrible acts, that's going to fall on you largely Mossad, and how they decide to do that and how they do their special operations. How they get that access to execute those special operations, physically being in proximity to be able to do that. That's where it comes out to being able to get on the ground. You can't magically be 100 miles away, wave a wand, and make your enemy go away. So if you have a solution to make Hamas magically blink out of existence so that it doesn't have repeated incidences of October the 7th, I'm open ears. You give me a solution, and I
You
would
can't at
love
this
to
point.
hear it. What's your solution?
You can't at this point.
What's your solution?
You can't at this point. You can't.
What's your solution to the removal
I just told you.
of Hamas?
I just absolutely told you that you can't.
How?
I told you that you can't. You cannot. CANNOT. You
So
cannot.
you just live with it. You just live with Hamas, and you just have repeated October 7th incidences.
The scales have tipped so far that this is the reality of the situation. It's an unfortunate reality.
So just the reality is just let the Jews of Israel just, what?
Hamas
We're
is
just
not.
going to have repeated, scores of break-ins. They're going to come into your homes and your neighborhoods. They'll sling 85-year-olds on motorcycles and run them off underground into caves. Every other weekend we'll just make a thing of it. We'll put a disco ball up and invite
This is
Hamas
not a
over.
defeatist.
And
This
we'll
is not a
just let
defeatist
them.
movement.
We'll turn this into the
No, no.
village like M.
No,
Night
no.
Shyamalan, and
No, no,
we'll
no,
hold
no, no.
campfires.
No,
That is insanity. That is like saying
I
after
love this
9/11,
idea.
we're
No,
just
no,
going to have
no,
an
no.
Al Qaeda,
What are you talking
Seder.
about? 9/11? I wouldn't even bring up 9/11 on this one. So that's a
What?
completely
Why?
different situation.
But you're
Yeah,
basically
no,
your
I wouldn't
response
bring
to
up
me is
9/11.
9/11 happened. It'll just keep happening.
No,
So
no, 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 no,
when
no,
I ask you
no.
what your solution is, what your alternative, what your strategy would be to resolving the issue at hand is, you say you can't.
I
So
told you
if
what
you
the
want to
strategy was.
criticize things,
I
come to
told
me
you
with
what
a
the strategy
solution.
was. I did come
If
with you a solution. I
if you
said
want
NATO should get
to say
together
this is
no,
wrong,
no. I
then
said
also
every
present to me
solution.
what is
I
right.
gave you a solution. I gave you a
No,
solution.
you didn't give me a solution. You just
Yes, I
said you
did.
can't.
No, I specifically said that you cannot go in and you
Then
cannot
how do you
eliminate
say
Hamas. You cannot do that.
how do we
What
remove
you
Hamas?
do, what you do is you bring NATO together. You bring every developed country that's supporting this war, and you make Israel give concessions. You declare a Palestinian state, and you give that state as it's supposed to be. That's what happens. That's the only way that you help grow a people. That's the only way that you help repair a people. That's the only way that happens. If you just say the only solution is to go in and fight, that's all we can do. We can just go in, we can just
Okay, so
kill Hamas,
after
kill
October the
Hamas,
7th
kill
and
Hamas.
a
That's all we can do.
horrible massacre,
So the fuck what,
you
man? Look at
want
what happened in
Israel to
1948.
concede land. That is
129.
literally equatable to after
That is
9/11,
exactly where I
the
was getting at. That's
United States being
exactly where I
asked
was
to give
getting at.
away
That's
part of New
exactly where I was
York.
getting at.
It's like
That is the
literally,
truth
okay,
right
here's
there.
part of
You
New York,
cannot understand. You
and we'll
cannot
just call it
understand where
even Stevens.
Israel has faults. You
Do you know
cannot
how
understand where Israel
insane
has
that
faults.
sounds?
Since 1948, Israel has come to
Hey,
occupy
hold
nearly
on
all
real
of
quick. Hold
Palestinian
on,
land.
hold on, hold on, hold on real
What are you
quick.
talking about?
We're kind of talking past each other real quick. So I'm gonna add a little buffer here. I'm gonna let Anthony go while we see if maybe we can find some middle ground here. Anthony?
Yeah, so just a couple of things, and that's why I was given the timeout signal. I want us just to step back for a second. Andy, um, please don't feel like I'm attacking you, and I know I'll give a lot of caveats, but I'm fucking old. It's what we do.
Oh, you're fine, and I appreciate it.
Just try, if you can, for me, please, to remove the emotional aspects at least out of your voice, right? It's not that it's triggering or that it's difficult for me, but I want to yell at you when you do that, like a teacher would yell at a student. This is a discussion, and I get that you want to be an ally, right? But part of being an ally is being an active listener. Now, you may not like the answers you've been given, but you have been given answers. And again, I want to warn against this. It is absolutely impossible to get rid of Hamas. It is an idea that will live as much as the schmatzies idea lives. These are things that don't go away. They may hide for a while. They may reduce in numbers for a while. But if one thing is true, history's a motherfucker and she repeats herself as soon as we forget, right? So, one, um, I understand what you're saying. I really do. I get it. And for the people who keep making comments about how we need somebody who's pro-Palestinian in the box, I'm not anti-Palestinian or against Palestinians or against Palestinian people having their own state. I'm actually all for it. What I'm not for is, again, just to be perfectly clear, is the killing of any innocent people in any situation. It's offensive to me as a humanist, right? I just don't believe in it. And you can be pro-Palestinian and you can be a Jew. It is possible to walk and chew gum at the same time. I'm going to shut up because I see Kimberly has arrived. So hopefully I've diffused and everybody's able to take a breath. And Kimberly, I will shut up because you're up here now, and I will just go back on mute.
Yeah, hi. I think it's harmful to compare Hamas ideology to Yahtzee ideology because it just doesn't take into account as to why Hamas exists in the first place. Hamas was created in the 1987 First Intifada as a direct reaction to the Israeli occupation, right? It was initially a resistance form and it was a reaction to what Israelis were doing in the West Bank, in Gaza, in Palestine in general. So to compare that to Yahtzee ideology, I think is just not analogous. It's not equivalent because the Yahtzee ideology was a majority ideology that decided to dehumanize and stigmatize whole groups of marginalized communities and use that systemic power to eradicate millions of people.
Yeah.
With regard to Hamas, though, they don't necessarily have much power to actually even implement their ideologies, and they are also a reaction. When I'm
So,
saying this,
so
I do
Kimberly, are
not
you saying that
condone
Hamas
the
is
unaliving. Wait,
freedom
can I
fighters? Or?
just finish? One second, can I just finish? When I'm saying this, I in no way condone what happened on October the 7th. I in no way condone the unaliving of innocent Israeli citizens as well. That's not why I'm saying this. I think we need to understand, though, that Hamas doesn't exist within a vacuum, and we need to stop centering Hamas in this conversation, because even if we got rid of Hamas and decided to bomb Hamas out of Gaza the same way the American military tried to bomb democracy into Iraq, another group will fill in that void and will take over, because the root cause of the existence of Hamas is the occupation.
And
Yeah.
here's where
Just
so I want
and
to
Andy, just
no, and Anthony, actually, I really need to address this because it's
well,
integral
give me
to
one
the
second
issue
because
at
I
hand.
need to apologize. Kimberly, thank you for the call out. I wasn't, so in the example that I used was that you can't just go in and remove a people because an idea, uh, the idea that Hamas continues out of the struggle in which it arose, because you are correct, 100%. And I've heard you share this before, so I appreciate your perspective. I wasn't trying to compare the two. I was just simply saying that ideas don't go away. And you're right, it's not in a vacuum. And if we take one group out, there will be another group to replace it. So I just wanted to say I've heard you several times on several lives, and I've appreciated your point of view. I've not been able to say that to you. So thank you. Andy, I'm so sorry. I promise I'm going to go on mute now. I promise. Sorry.
I
No,
appreciate you,
you're
Anthony, for that.
fine. And while I am a big advocate of knowing history, and I 100% acknowledge I don't know 7% of what I need to on the topic in general. What I do know is that largely in our current state of affairs was initiated, October 7th. I know that largely this large scale issue was kickstarted off on October the 7th. This is a long simmering, long standing, hundreds of 75-year struggle culminating in this, but the fire starter was October the 7th. Um, Now, I understand, Kimberly, your need to explain that the origin story of Hamas was one of freedom fighting and resistance, and Vive la France or Vive la Palestine. You know, be whatever its well-intended origin may be, even if it came from a source of this is free the people, it has ended up in a state of they went into neighborhoods and they unalived people, they unalived children, and they unalived babies on October the 7th. So I don't care how well and how good your intention was when you were founded, what you did and who you are now is completely unacceptable in human society. And that's why I understand the IDF's response, Israel's response, and the actions they've taken and the severity in which they are responding. So I hate this argument, and I see it used time and time again in these conversations of Hamas was essential, and this is just a natural, okay reaction, and let's basically airbrush over the existence of Hamas and excuse October the 7th because it was, inevitable. And I want to not brush over the events of that day because I think that's an atrocious thing to do. I think that's disrespectful to all the victims of that day and the victims of Israel. When you have that and really want to center a conversation based around, protecting the sanctity and origin and creation of Hamas. I also think that does a
I
disservice to the
think
people of Palestine who largely don't support them, at least from what I've heard.
so. I think what does a disservice as well is pretending as if the fires started burning on October the 7th when the fires have been burning since 1948. I think we have to understand you are addressing what Hamas has done, but we are forgetting the fact that, for example, in Tantura in 1948, which is a seaside village, you had IDF soldiers unaliving, massacring the seaside village. They expelled the people of Tantura and they built 2 beach resorts on Tantura, and then they built a parking lot on a mass grave of Tantura villagers. That is only one massacre in a whole list of massacres that have happened since 1948, since the Nakba, where 700,000 Palestinian people were expelled from their lands and live as refugees until today. Their descendants live as refugees until today, right? So to pretend as if the fire just started on October the 7th, just because there was some type of peace, is, I think, ahistorical, because the existence of peace does not mean the existence of liberation. Negative peace can also exist. And Palestinian people don't only want peace, they actually want justice and equality. And this is something that is recognized by B'Tselem, which is an Israeli human rights organization that actively deems the Israeli state as an apartheid state. And not only the B'Tselem, which is an Israeli human rights organization, but you also have Breaking the Silence, which is an organization of former Israeli IDF soldiers and military who are veterans today, and they created a whole organization called Breaking the Silence, discussing the atrocities that were committed by the IDF. You have instances where the IDF literally unalived toddlers, like the toddler that was unalived, the 2-year-old toddler who was unalive this year in June when he was in a car with his father, who was a cook, trying to drive to his uncle, and he was unalived in Ramallah. In the West Bank, you keep bringing up Hamas. Hamas doesn't have power in the West Bank, and yet since October the 7th, 75 people were unalived in the West Bank by Israeli settlers and IDF soldiers as well. There was the
Okay, so
incident that was
I'm going to
posted.
interject because you've been going on
There was
for
the
quite a while here, and I love the
Can I
personal
finish
stories
what I
that
was trying to
were,
say? Can I just finish what I was trying to
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
right?
Don't do that, please. Everybody's been real respectful. You've had plenty of monologues yourself, so I'm sorry that you were bored with what Athena was saying, but maybe just listen and then respond to what she has to say.
The Times of Israel posted an article on October the 20th, and that article is called IDF Settlers Allegedly Bind, Strip, Beat, Burn, Urinate on 3 Palestinians in the West Bank. And it talks about IDF soldiers who captured 3 Palestinians in the West Bank after October the 7th, on October the 12th, where they spent hours torturing them, urinating on them, and they even tried to sodomize one of the Palestinians. This is not something that is being addressed, and the atrocities of the IDF is not being addressed as well. Proof is betsalem.org. Oh, am I breaking up? Sorry, it might be my Wi-Fi. Can y'all hear me?
You're good. You're good on my end.
Going. I think it might be somebody else breaking up.
Okay, sorry, I'm back.
I can hear you. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the people who are asking me for the proof, the Times of Israel has written about this, and also B'Tselem, which is an Israeli human rights organization, has also posted about the 3 Palestinian people who were tortured on October the 12th, and including the 75 Palestinian people who are unalived, some of them in Nur al-Shams refugee camp in the West Bank. The issue that I have here is we're criticizing Hamas for collectively punishing Israeli citizens for the actions of the Israeli state, but then in the same breath, we're justifying the IDF for collectively punishing people in Gaza for the actions of Hamas, which again, 50% of Gaza are minors. They weren't even able to vote for Hamas in 2005. And collective punishment is a war crime according to the Geneva Convention as well. So it's very inconsistent, I think.
Okay. So
I would also like to add to what Athena was just saying as well, just to give you a quick 30-second breakdown. The Six-Day War resulted in 19,000 Arab deaths, less than 1,000 Israeli deaths. You also go back to 2005, where you saw 3,225 Palestinians killed by Israelis. And then you also look at this conflict. As of right now, 5,700 Palestinians have been killed in the war, including some 2,300 minors. 2,300 of the 5,700 Palestinians killed in the current conflict, as we sit right now, have been minors. So go ahead. You can rebuke against Kimberly all you want. I'm waiting for it.
okay, no, I'm not even going to attempt to rebuke anything that she has said. I'm certain the facts are solid. What I would, leverage against that, or not even necessarily against, but what I would say in response is that I don't believe that this is collective punishment. I believe that this is a response militarily. They have given attempts in Gaza City, and said, evacuate, go here, there's aid. They've attempted to do so swiftly. It may not be convenient. I would imagine war many times is not. Do I think there's any kind of invisible shield or magical barrier that prevents any form of Hamas or anti-Israel intended, terrorist group or cell from existing in the West Bank? I don't think that exists. So to, have a belief that they're hitting, people for fun in the West Bank, I think is just disingenuous. Do I think that Mossad or, the IDF is actively hitting real threats in the West Bank? Yes. What is your reasoning for thinking they're just attacking people willy-nilly in the West Bank? I'd
You
like
didn't hear
to
what
know
she
that.
said.
I'm sorry?
You did not listen to what she said about the West Bank. You did not listen to the words that came out of her mouth about the deaths in the West Bank.
How's that?
Which were in refugee camps, by the way. Part of them were in refugee camps, like Nur al-Shams refugee camp. And Hamas doesn't have a stronghold in the West Bank, so that cannot be used as an excuse either.
Well, they may not have a
But
stronghold.
also,
They may not be an elected form of government, but to think that they don't have a representation there is what I'm saying, and that they're not
no,
operating.
they don't have a stronghold at all. They don't have a stronghold at all.
The,
But also, can you
and
tell
you're
me who Ben
absolutely.
Gavir
I,
is?
I want to know your military intelligence that you have that Israel does not have access to. Because I'm
This is
willing
Wait,
to
can
out
you
give
of
tell
them the
me who
Israel.
benefit of a
This is
doubt.
Itamar
directly
Ben
from
Gavir?
Israel.
I just don't know why we're
Yeah.
so unwilling to give the IDF a benefit of a doubt that they're having a legitimate military response.
Can you tell me who Itamar Ben Gavir is?
Please tell me.
Do you know who Itamar Ben Gavir is?
No, that's why I said please tell me.
He's the current Minister of National Security who subscribes to the Kahina movement of the 1980s. Kahina was a man who believed that Palestinians didn't deserve to exist and wanted to eradicate all Palestinians. Ben Gavir is very much pro-settlement in the West Bank, and he's the Minister of National Security, a part of the current Netanyahu administration, who himself has said that the IDF and the Israeli state should stomp out every single Palestinian. And he doesn't even believe Palestinians exist. He only considers them to be Arab. And Palestinians are not Arab. They're Arabized, which there's a difference between the two. But he has actively dismissed the existence of the Palestinian people, and he has even flat out said he wants them fully eradicated. His name is Ben Gavir, the current Minister of National Security. You also had Netanyahu, who released a tweet and deleted it after he was criticized, saying that Palestinian people were the children of the darkness. So you had
And
the Minister of Justice who
is that a
referred to
direct
Palestinian
translated
people. Hold
quote?
on. You had the Minister of Justice who referred to Palestinian people as human animals. So there are multiple politicians within the current Netanyahu administration, which is the most right-wing administration that Israel has ever had until now, that Israelis themselves were protesting against the administration a couple of months ago, right? Many people within the Netanyahu administration have flat out not only used disgusting, dehumanizing rhetoric about Palestinian people, but have flat out said they want to eradicate Palestinian people.
Real quick, Andy, just to give you asked if that was a direct quote. The tweet read, "This is a struggle between the children of light and the children of darkness, between humanity and the law of the jungle." So yeah, direct quote.
Okay, well, I mean that itself is there's some context there. I mean that can be interpreted a couple of different ways, and
Jesus
I'd have
Christ,
to.
man!
No.
Is your like is that the goal? Is that the
No.
goal every time to like try and find some moral wiggle room? Like that could not be more clear.
Well, no, I'm saying I don't know. I would need more context.
Who
I'm
are the
just not
children
trying to
of
make
who
a
are the?
quick
Okay,
snap
explain
condemnation.
me the context where Netanyahu is saying this is the struggle between the children of light and the children of darkness. Explain to me the context where that's not horrific.
He's a politician saying this is
Shut
a
that.
struggle
No,
between the
stop.
forces of
Explain
good
to
and
me.
evil.
No, don't tell me he's a politician. Don't weasel your way out. Politicians can be horrific. Please explain to me. Put the spin on that where that's not a horrific thing to say.
Politicians themselves are
Oh my
weasels.
God. I just told you not to say that. Being a politician is not an excuse to say awful things. More importantly, just because they're a politician, I don't know why you would even try and defend this. Why are you unable to say that's horrific?
I can
Don't know
say
the
it.
context, the greater context of what he was saying before or after that.
It was
Andy,
no. There was no before and after. That was the tweet.
Andy, it's really important when it comes to, again, I'm going to put my school teacher hat on. It's really important when Athena, and damn it, I didn't know that was your name, and I'm so sorry, and I know who you are, and I feel like a big fucking boomer idiot. Anyway, love
It's
your
okay.
talks. When it comes to how the Knesset is formed and how it's been formed under Netanyahu, under Bibi, it's important to understand how these puzzle pieces have been assembled and why these puzzle pieces have been assembled. The foreign minister to which Athena just referred to is an occupier of the West Bank, meaning he was a part of a settler movement that went into what was supposed to be non-occupied territory and occupied it for the reasons that Athena told you. So, in the context of the type of person that he is and the public statements he has been making, since 2017, so these are not new. It doesn't matter that he's a politician. As a person, as a Jew, I am telling you, we have assholes too. And it doesn't matter that they're politicians, right? What matters is that a Jew said these things in Israel with the backdrop of knowing that as a people, he literally is now advocating for the exact same fucking thing that his entire family went through. This is the unfucking just irritating irony that continues to this day within certain circles of Israel allies, supporters, and fucking boy fans of Bibi, who will never be his fucking brother, who will never be a real fucking hero, and who'll never actually be the true leader of the Jewish people, although he likes to think that he is. He's the leader of the Israeli government. He doesn't represent all Jews. And the minister that was mentioned certainly does not represent me, does not represent my family, does not represent what we believe in. It is really fucking atrocious that things like this get said by our people. It's embarrassing. It's really hard to deal with. And fucking frankly, it puts in another target on our back, and we don't need another target on our back. These types of comments are fucking excusable and inhumane. When you start to remove the humanity of a people, you have gone too fucking far, and it needs to stop. This is not a hill you want to die on. Please let this go, right? And we can bring up another topic, but this one in particular, I'm asking you kindly to not make another comment on, because there is
I'll
no.
agree with you. I will see the point. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, I agree
appreciate
with the
that.
context, and yeah, I would agree with you. Yeah, I have that context now. I know a little bit more, and I'll agree with you. That would be horrible.
That was a good moment. That was a good moment. What do we do when we all agree on something? Now, this has never happened before on a live of mine. I actually don't know what to do right
High
now.
fives. High
Yeah,
fives.
I do have an
What,
High
let's
ability
fives.
to
hear.
have my mind changed and learn, so, I can admit when I'm wrong, or, I have a lack of knowledge on a subject. So, I definitely have a lack of knowledge here. So, I don't have to always be right or win a debate. I can say, hey, I don't know enough, or hey, I'm not smart enough here. So, I mean, that's definitely the case. Athena knows a lot more. Anthony has a lot more firsthand knowledge, and Koenig definitely has a lot more knowledge on stats. And RTP, you're just amazing.
I
So
just have a good attitude. That's all.
yeah, no, do I
I
still,
also wanted
have?
to address.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
yeah. So I mean,
I thought
I
you were
still
done.
have, some beliefs, about things, that and questions about how we handle the situation, that being what it is, what it is, and how we handle things and how people are conducting their behavior in America, particularly. Things like I've seen people, stomp on American flags, in protests, which I'm against. You know, you know, I hate to see that. Um, it's horrible.
I wanted to address the evacuation aspect that you brought forward, right? So all human rights organizations globally have condemned that move to ask over 1 million people to evacuate within 24 hours. Because what are you going to do with people with disabilities, people who are children, older people, people who might be in hospitals, who might be in comas, who might be stuck to some machines? I don't know. You're giving them 24 hours to move completely over 1 million people. I moved at the beginning of this year. I'm one person. It took me like a whole week to move everything, to pack everything up. But you're telling over 1 million people that they would need to move within 24 hours. That is also collective punishment when you're cutting off supplies like water and electricity to a whole population, punishing them for the actions of what Hamas did, a minority. That is also collective punishment. And all of these things are actually war crimes according to international law. And the issue that I have here is that people are criticizing Hamas for attacking Israeli citizens for the actions of the Israeli state. But then as a response to that condemnation, Israel is doing the same thing in that it's holding Palestinian children and Palestinian people accountable for the actions of Hamas, which again, let me clarify, 50% of the population wasn't even alive when Hamas was being voted in. When you have 50% of the population who are minors, and you have about 40%, I think, who are under the age of 15. They weren't even there when Hamas was being voted in. Yet you are now cutting off their electricity, cutting off their water. They're being bombed left and right. They're dying left and right. Over 1,500 of the people who died were Palestinian children under the age of 15. They're seeing they're living in misery. Do you know what this does? It makes them more susceptible to becoming radicalized. This is literally making Hamas's job easier, militant groups easier, because when they're seeing that the cause of their pain and trauma is the Israeli state actually actively violating human rights and unaliving them, what are they going to do? They're going to get radicalized, because now they're going to despise the Israeli state that is causing them all of this pain and trauma, and has been causing them this pain and trauma for the past couple of decades. So you're actually helping Hamas.
No, I I saw this situation more as and maybe this will be helpful insight onto folks, a lot of people's reactions to this, and understanding some of the more knee-jerk reactions to this is seeing something like the 7th that happened. That is horrible, and just knowing a surface level bit of detail on it, and not knowing all the higher overview level information, not knowing all of that lengthy history, and just taking it at face value and saying what everyone is saying is Hamas is horrible people. People get hung up, trying to explain the origins of Hamas, or say, okay, it came with that, and it gets confusing, and then it gets lost in the sauce a little bit. For some folks like me, thinking people are defending Hamas, and because it's and that's what I was frustrated with. I was seeing other people maybe misconvey the point you were making, and maybe they were conveying that point in a very poor light, that this was justified. These were justified actions rather than I don't want to say understandable, but it was a chain reaction. It was something that you could see as a reaction. So it's been very helpful for me to talk about this with all of you tonight. I have learned a lot. I will go ahead and let the pros continue onward with your discussion, because you are the pros on the topic and not myself.
Well, I'm gonna shut it down, but I wanted to give everybody an opportunity for a last word if we wanted to do that. I gotta get up and do this again in the morning. Let's go, Anthony, and then Whisper, and then Andy, and then we'll save the best for last.
Well, as always, I have enjoyed being the root cause of a particular person getting banned, because I am 3 for 3. That is a total joke, and people need to understand that I am a particular person's bad luck charm. Thank you all very much for allowing this to happen, for having this conversation, for sharing your thoughts, your ideas. Athena, I'm so super stoked to have met you here on TikTok after listening to you all this time. I feel like a fanboy and need an autograph, although that's probably a bit creepy, but what the fuck, I'm an old fat hippie, so I guess just looking at me is creepy enough. But I truly appreciate
Say that
everything
about
that you brought.
yourself. They appreciate you, but don't say those things about yourself. Be kinder. Everybody should be kinder to themselves, and I appreciate you.
You know, I love you for saying that because I swear to you, as soon as I said it, I heard my mom's voice in my mind going, don't don't do that. That's not good. It's sometimes I get so sad that I do that kind of humor because it's the only way I can get through things, and I'm very sad right now because I have friends who got called back to the IDF and they're conflicted and I'm conflicted, and it's evenings like this that make me appreciate meeting all of you and honored to be here. And I will shut up because if I don't know if you've noticed, but Italian Jews can fucking talk forever. So thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Anthony. What is your name right now? Coning? Whatever.
Shut up. It's
Whatever
Whisper.
your 85th account that didn't get banned today. Yeah, go
You know
ahead.
what? Call me daddy. How about that?
You wish.
You know, it was a really great talk tonight. It's one of those things. I've been studying this for 21 years. I've been following this like 21 years to the day, and it's a conflict that is not going to end in a way that's likable for anyone, and it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that we've gotten to the scales of the scales have tipped so far. I'm glad Athena was here to kind of put my points out there in a much different way. It's really easy for me to just instantly condemn the idea of taking sides in this conflict, and I do so quite passionately, just because we're not taking sides for people. We're taking sides for ideas that are both rooted in very, very, very evil and and quite frankly wrong ideologies. And so the conflict here is not going to be easy to watch. It's not going to be easy to see continue, and it is going to continue. And for those of you that are pro one side or the other, I encourage you to look at a map. You know, it's a really simple exercise that you could do. Show me Palestine on a map. Google it, find it, show me where it is, and you can understand a lot more of the conflict. Look at 1948. Look at where the lines were drawn. Look at what state was declared and look at what state was not declared. Look at the actions that happened in the Six-Day War in 1967. Look at 2005. Look at what's actually happening there. Look at the shrinking of, look at the continued occupation of Israel into Palestinian territory. Look at that. It paints a very different picture than just simply saying, go in and kill Hamas. Like Athena said, Hamas is not the Palestinian people. Hamas is not the West Bank. Hamas is not the Gaza Strip. Those are children. That's all I got to say on it.
Yeah, I did want to hop in and clarify, in case I had given an impression otherwise to anyone when I was listening. I am 100% never advocating for any kind of ethnic cleansing, apartheid. Definitely never any way, shape, or form harm in any way to a minor. What I was referencing was sometimes the ugliness of military war from talking to, parents who've been in, conflicts like Vietnam and how that can ultimately get very, very troublesome. So it was more like the darkness of those types of conflicts and those difficult choices that can sometimes be forced upon, some of our best heroes. So I didn't want to give the impression that a lot of what I talked about I took willy-nilly. I don't. And if anyone listening, trust any of these people 100 times more than me. They know 100 times more than me.
Are you open to changing your name?
Well, I've actually planned to tomorrow. I just haven't been able to stick you with it for 7 days. I've got
That's
so many
true.
death,
That's true.
I've got
I was
so
just
many
wondering.
death
A bunch of
threats.
people were asking in the comments, so I just want to give you an opportunity to address that if you didn't see it.
Well, I mean, not necessarily. I mean, still, F Hamas. I mean, I don't think, and that's really a point. Anybody really is. I don't think I've run across anybody who's actually pro Hamas. Is anyone pro Hamas? At this point.
You'll find them. They're there. They're on TikTok.
Yeah, there's one in Good Trouble's live earlier today.
Wow. But But yeah, I mean, I still feel good about the username choice, because anybody who could commit the atrocities of October the 7th, which are still atrocities, that was still a good bet on a username. I just didn't understand at all any of the context. Um, so
Yeah,
yeah.
it's kind of like when it does though feel like you're taking a side there. Like it's fine to say like this is why I chose this username. I disagree with this behavior, but it does just come off as like fuck Hamas, but like Israel's fine. And I think that's how you entered this live today. Is that it's kind of where you're at, right?
Um, yes. So yeah, I mean, I was totally in defense of Israel. I'm not. I've learned a lot more about the context and know that I need to do a lot more research, to prove my own stats, to prove my own contextual understanding. A lot of the things I already knew and have heard, I got more refined information on. I got a lot more personal information out of Anthony, and more of a connection out of that. As far as a testimonial, and more of a one-on-one conversation, that helped me connect to the story of this a lot more and bring a lot more reality to it. There's a difference between listening to a live or, reading some information or an article, and actually having a conversation with someone directly involved in it. So it helps make it more tangible and real. So, yeah.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you, Athena.
Yeah, so I think like a lot of conversations and debates and discussions around this conflict are complicated because they can be plagued with anti-Semitism, they can be plagued with Islamophobia and Arab phobia as well. And I think that is what makes these discussions more complex. But taking a side on injustice, I think, is not a complex, or you cannot show neutrality when you are seeing injustices happening. I think there's a fundamental dehumanization of Palestinian people, regardless of if they live in Gaza or West Bank, or also in Israel. When we look at the stats out of Israel, half of Arab Israeli households live below the poverty line, against 1/5 of Israeli households. That is according to the Euro-Mediterranean Human Rights Network. The unemployment rate for Israeli Arab men is twice that of Jewish men, while the rate of Arab Israeli women is 3 times higher than for Jewish women. Arab Israeli towns also receive much less public funding for development than Jewish municipalities, and planning permissions are also rarely granted. The Israeli Supreme Court itself recognized that Israeli Arabs are not treated equally and they're discriminated against within Israeli society. So we are seeing a fundamental dehumanization of Palestinian people, regardless of if they live in Israel or if they live in wherever, West Bank or Gaza, whether they're Muslims, whether they're atheists, whether they are Palestinian Jewish people, whether they are Christians as well. There is a fundamental dehumanization happening to the point where Palestinian people talking about actual historical facts are being silenced. Like Athena Shibli, who in her book Minor Detail, which has been boycotted all over Europe, because she simply in her book mentioned the actual true case of a 1948 atrocity that happened to a 16 or young Bedouin girl who was raped by 20 IDF soldiers, who was unalived and then buried in the Negev desert, and her unaliving was covered up until the early 2000s. Just because Athena Shibli decided to incorporate that actual true story of a Bedouin girl in her book Minor Detail, she was accused of being anti-Semitic, and she was boycotted all over Europe as well. And then you have the Tantura massacre, which there was a recent Israeli documentary made by an Israeli director talking about the Israeli massacre of the seaside village of Tantura and the building of 2 beach resorts on that village. How that has also been dismissed. There have been countless atrocities that have not been discussed, that have not been acknowledged, that have not been recognized and dismissed because of the dehumanization of Palestinian people, and because people think Palestinian people just deserve it and they should just shut up and keep quiet and continue being oppressed. I think that is what's missing from all of these conversations, the humanizing of Palestinian people. And the reason as to why I brought up that one Bedouin girl is because sometimes one death is considered an atrocity, but 1,000 are just considered statistic. And if we focus on the individual deaths of all these people, we will realize how atrocious this disaster has been for over 70 years, and nobody has bothered even talking about it. But thank you for letting me on your live, RTP. As per usual, I appreciate you. I'm going to drop down now, but thank you for giving me the space to have this conversation. And Anthony, I appreciate you, by the way. Just wanted to say that. I'm going to drop now.
You're always welcome. I'm gonna wrap it up. It's late for me. I appreciate everybody for coming by. This wasn't even planned. It was a failed. We were supposed to have a YouTube live and it didn't work out, and this turned out beautiful. So Anthony, whatever your name is, Koning, and Andy, I appreciate the discussion. I'll see everybody else tomorrow, 9:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Monday through Friday. We're always here. And
you better not end this without saying my name.
And Whisper. Whisper. When he gets unbanned, you guys check him out. He'll be following me, I think, most days after at 1 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. He'll be following me. So, anyways, Anthony, love you, brother. Jake, love you, brother. Andy, I wouldn't say I love you because I don't know you yet, but I'm going to say it anyways. I love you. See you guys. See you in the morning.